My name's Chris Baker, and I'm here today to talk to you about one single behaviour change that has the potential to change the world. And it has the ability to do it faster than anything else we could do. I believe that if we change how people spend their money, we can change the world. What I mean by that is changing from brands and businesses that are part of the problem to brands and businesses that are part of the solution. They are trying to solve a problem with the tools of business. It sounds simple, doesn't it? Well, it's certainly simpler than the alternatives. Let's look at business. Trying to persuade companies to move away from a model and an entire system that prioritises shareholder return and profit above all else is a seriously difficult task. How do you change an entire system where all the incentives are aligned to maximising growth, profitability, margin and share price? It's not easy. The same is true of trying to get governments to change legislation to bring about positive change and better business practices. It takes a long time. Getting a single national government to do this amidst a web of vested interests, self-preservation and political ideologies is no mean feat. And then trying to build global alignment across hundreds of governments with their own national interests and internal challenges is mind-boggling in its complexity. Just look at the repeated failure of global legislation on climate change despite decades of conferences to try and build a consensus. How about changing what regular people do? Changing behaviour, something a lot of people in this room will know a lot about. Driving significant, lasting behaviour change at a population level to try and get us past some of the thornier issues facing humanity is extremely complex. Billions of people, emotional, irrational, unpredictable, each one facing their own challenges in life and playing the cards they're dealt. Trying to change the behaviour of billions of people to find a way to minimise the effects of climate change, for example, is close to an impossible task. How do you change the behaviour of billions of people? Millions upon millions of pounds and dollars have been spent on getting us to recycle more, turn off light switches and reduce food waste. A little prompt to nudge us in the right direction might help and will deliver some incremental improvement, but we can't nudge our way past climate change. Behaviour change is hugely complex and it's so difficult to cut through the noise and make a meaningful difference. A campaign might get people to change their behaviour once or for a short time, but will it lead to lasting, meaningful behaviour change? Changing human behaviour in the long term is seriously hard. It takes a lot of time, considerable resources, and the ability to keep doing it year after year. Businesses and government priorities change. Charities need to move on to the next issue. And then there's a danger we slide back to square one. In changing behaviour, we're often trying to fight the tide of evolution, attempting to change behaviours developed over thousands of years that have played a big part in our survival. Unsurprisingly, that's a big challenge. But people already buy toilet paper. They already drink coffee. They eat chocolate. They wear shoes. They chew gum. They clean their houses, they use tampons, they drive a car, they surf the internet, and hopefully they brush their teeth. And they probably always will. So I'm just talking about getting them to change the brand they buy to one that's a bit better, one that has a positive impact on the world rather than contributing to problems. These transactions quickly add up to something bigger, and it makes a real difference. And these companies are growing fast. They're not small businesses anymore. They are huge players, billion-dollar businesses with huge valuations. This sort of behaviour change is far easier than driving major lifestyle changes around sustainability and health. In fact, people are already doing it every day. Competition is the lifeblood of the capitalist system. We're not saying we want consumers to buy more or buy less. We're saying spend that money slightly differently. Spend that money in a slightly smarter way, with a brand that's part of the solution to a problem you care about, rather than part of the problem. There are numerous examples of brands that are doing this. Let's take the world of milk. The switch from a traditional dairy milk to an alternative milk like Oatly reduces your carbon footprint by up to 50%, depending on where in the world you are. Switching from a plastic bottle that you'll see in every shop across the world to a canned water bottle or drink saves you that plastic bottle. It's not going into single use. Liquid Death have done a great job in this, promising to murder your thirst and create death to plastic. The switch from the world of fast fashion to the world of second-hand fashion and reusable fashion invented is gathering pace at steam. The potential to switch the search engine you use from Google, an ad-funded model, to a company called Ecosia, who are planting trees with every sale, using that ad revenue to plant trees. They've just planted their 210th millionth tree this month. Switching chocolate from a chocolate bar like Mars or Cadbury to one like Tony's Chocolate Only that's taking a stand, that's making a difference and has reduced child slavery and exploitation in the farms they work with from an industry average of 46% down to under 4% in just 3 years. These switches are not hard to make. They're very straightforward. Switching from a Nike trainer to an Allbirds trainer, much more sustainable in the ingredients it uses, the materials, to have a much lighter footprint. Pun very much intended. Switching from a toilet roll, something close to my heart. Switching from a toilet roll that is made from virgin pulp. 10 million trees are cut down every month to make toilet roll in a world where we need trees more than ever to fight climate change and deforestation. Switching to a recycled option or a bamboo option makes a big difference and is a big step forward. Switching the coffee you buy from a coffee like Starbucks to a coffee like Change Please. Change Please is a business that uses the proceeds from its coffee sales to train homeless people as baristas and give them an opportunity and a second shot at getting back into society. Give them a skill that's transferable and gives them a future. A big one here, switching from a big gas-guzzling SUV to an EV is a big switch you can make. But again, it's much more affordable than it has been in the past, and the opportunity is there. So I believe that, like I said, if we can get people to change how they spend their money, we can change the world. This kind of behaviour change is something we can genuinely achieve. Pick one brand over another. It's as simple as that. Yes, there might be a bit of a cost premium to some of these, but it's not out of reach by any means. And this kind of change is worth paying a little more for. And the bigger these companies get, the more price competitive they become. If brands that offer a better option or a positive impact exist in the category and they're easily available for people to switch to, it becomes a no-brainer to make that switch. A good product that meets your needs and makes you feel good at the same time. A coffee that helps a homeless person off the street. A toilet roll that plants trees rather than cutting them down. A car that treads lightly on the planet. A trainer that treads lightly on the planet. All of these things are culminating and gathering momentum. This sort of switch goes with the flow of human motivation or human behaviour, rather than fighting the tide and trying to cut through this endless complexity of noise and complexity of life. And we don't need to change everyone's behaviour to make a difference here. A few percentage points in these billion-dollar markets starts to make a real difference and gets the status quo brands to sit up and take notice. Excuse me. And there's so many of these change brands gathering momentum, building an audience, generating a lot of sales. Brands that are doing hundreds of millions of pounds and dollars in sales. And as part of the research for a book I've been writing, I've spoken to 20 or 30 founders across these businesses, from big and small brands like Oatly and Liquid Death, and haven't spoken to Elon, unfortunately, but spoken to the guys at Tony's and all these different places that are making a big difference. One thing that comes through really clearly is this thought that is inspired by is a quote from a guy called Buckminster Fuller. He talks about the idea that you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you build a new model that makes the old model or the existing model obsolete. And I believe that's what these brands are doing. These what I call change brands are building something that leaves the old model behind. Brands and businesses that are solving a problem with what they do. They're treading lighter than the status quo brands, and they're solving a problem and having a forward impact on what they do. And this is what I've written about in my book, Obsolete. You see where I got it from with the quote? And it's this idea that how change brands can change the world. And it's out in October, I should probably say. Or my agent will kill me. So I believe in summary, how we spend our money has more power to change the world than anything else we do in our time on this planet. If you think about it compared to voting, something we've all had the chance to do this year, and some big votes happening, we might get to vote once every 4 or 5 years. Depending on where you live, if you're in a swing state or a particular constituency, it might make a difference, but the likelihood is it won't. But you get to spend money multiple times every single day. Every single time you tap that card, that can be a vote for the world you want to live in, a problem you want to solve, a difference you want to make. And being the strategist, planner that I am, I spent a lot of time looking into the details, just how much money is moving and how big is this opportunity. And there's some big numbers here. So what you find is consumer spend, what people are spending their money on, makes up between 60 and 70% of the GDP in almost every country in the world, particularly the more developed ones. So in the UK, £1.5 trillion every year is spent by consumers. That's 60% of GDP. It's a big, big number. 1% of that would be £15 billion every year. So 15 billion, 1%, moving to brands and businesses that are part of the solution would make an enormous difference to so many problems and so many challenges. If you look at that at a much bigger level into the States, consumer spend in the US is a massive $14 trillion every year. It's close to 70%, I think it's 68% of GDP. And if you were to take 1% of that, that would be close to $150 billion every year. If you could move 1% of that money to brands that are part of the solution, brands that are trying to solve a problem, we can make a real big difference. 1%. That's all it is. And many of these brands, Tesla are coming up on 10% share, Tony's are gathering momentum, Liquid Death are growing quickly. Lots of them are already past 1% in their market. So this is a movement that is gathering momentum quickly. So 1% of that spend to brands that are making a difference to some of the world's biggest problems. It's a hugely exciting opportunity. It's a simple behaviour for people to make. Pick up this brand rather than this brand. Go into this coffee shop rather than this coffee shop. Make that tiny change. I believe money is humanity's most powerful invention. That's what gave this talk its title. Time is money. Money moves things quickly. There is an instant impact. It unlocks progress. It fuels change, accelerates change. It transcends politics. Money is the biggest unifier out there. Power follows money. Whichever side of the aisle you're sitting on, money is important. If the businesses that are growing fastest, winning the biggest share of market share, winning a lot of market share, they're going to be the ones that attract the VC money, the private equity money, the brands that grow fastest. And money has the ability to change the course of history. Looking back a long time ago, going back to 1820, probably one of the first movements, if you like, that we talk about so much in marketing and comms. 1820, the movement to abolish the slave trade was gathering momentum. There was a tea set which encouraged people in the UK to not buy sugar from the West Indies, but to buy it from the East Indies, which means it's buying it from Southeast Asia rather than buying it from the Caribbean in today's parlance. Imagine the stir this would have made in polite society in Britain when you bring your sugar out in a bowl that says East India sugar, not made by slaves. It's a real conversation starter. It would have caused a real stir. And the movement gathered momentum. More than 5% of people were on board with this, and the sugar boycott played a really big part in the abolition of the slave trade in the 1830s. So moving money has precedent. It has changed history many times, and it can do so again. So this thought of changing how people spend their money to change the world is something I passionately believe in and think is the simplest behaviour change we can look at to make a real difference. And I think change brands are not just trying to build successful businesses and trying to build good brands, but they're actually a catalyst for wider change in the world beyond their own category. So if you look at the toilet paper industry, brands like Who Gives a Crap, Cheeky Panda, Serious Tissues that I've been involved in, collectively probably got somewhere between 5 to 8% of the UK market. That's a lot of money in a few $1 billion market, or a few £1 billion market. What that's meant is brands like Andrex, brands like Cushelle have had to change. They've looked at removing plastic from their packaging. Some have done it in small scales, but they've also created longer rolls. So the Andrex roll at the top there says last 50% longer. Cushelle have created tubeless rolls. Regina have actually created a bamboo brand. This one in particular has 10% bamboo in, which is sort of cheating really, but at least they're trying. Similarly in the laundry aisle, you're seeing brands like Small, more recently Ocean Saver, removing plastic from their packaging. No need for pods to be packed in plastic. And what you've seen is brands like Fairy, brands like Ariel, even Own Label have come on board with cardboard boxes rather than needless plastic packaging. So that wouldn't have happened without change brands, disruptors trying to change things from the outside. The big one, probably the best example of change brands being a catalyst in the world for wider change. If Tesla wasn't there as this agitator, there is no way the car industry would have moved so quickly away from the internal combustion engine. A few years ago now, the VW boss was warning troops. He didn't want to become obsolete. He didn't want to end up like Nokia. So they've made a huge bet on electric cars, on EV. They're spending billions and billions on every single model across their range to do that. There is no way this would have happened as quickly without Tesla and their founder making a lot of noise at the time. And what this does is it gives legislators the confidence to act, to legislate and put a date on when the internal combustion engine is going to be going. That wouldn't have happened without change brands. And more of these things are starting to happen. Tony's Chocolonely are starting to build a model around ending slavery and exploitation in the supply chain, giving legislators in West Africa the confidence to act. So this movement for change is gathering serious momentum. Simple behaviour changes from one brand to another can make a major difference, and it can do it quickly. So just to wrap things up, I think the way to look at this, it all comes down to the frame you're looking at the world through. Do you see it as a threat, or do you see it as an opportunity? It's very easy to see this rising tide as a threat when you're sat there in a big company. It's a risk to be managed. It's a threat to be mitigated against. It's something to try and delay. But I'd argue that actually you should see this as a huge opportunity for business. It's not a threat, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to win new business from new audiences. It's an opportunity to outflank competitors. Where is that opportunity? Where can you enter a new category in a different way? It's an opportunity for first mover advantage. You could be the first. The first brand, first big chocolate supplier that goes slavery free. That's a big opportunity for somebody. It's a way to improve brand perception, move those brand power scores, and we know that has a commercial impact. And it gives you the opportunity to make a real positive difference in the world. And I think there's one quote from someone who probably has a quote for absolutely everything out there, but this thought from Winston Churchill: the pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. Now, I believe we should look at this change we're seeing in the world as an opportunity. The legacy brands, the status quo, are under pressure. They're seeing it as a threat. We need to see it as an opportunity. We need to move faster, and we need to help people move their behaviour, move